I grew up in the Ypsilanti-Belleville area of Michigan, and I heard the stories about Denton Road Bridge and other so-called haunted places in our town and in the nearby Canton. I come from a religious background and never really believed any of the things that I was told. When I was around 15 or so, my belief about the stories I heard changed. The summer before I turned 16, I was living great. A lot of my friends had gotten their licenses, and one of our first trips was to Denton Road, the bridge in Canton. We all laughed about the things we had heard, and jokingly questioned if any of the things would happen to us. Following the tradition, we stopped and parked the car on the bridge and got out. Walking slowly back and forth across the bridge, we started hearing the faint cries of what sounded like a baby, never thinking much about it, thinking it could be from a house down the road. We kept pacing back and forth across the bridge. The cries got louder and louder, and then were followed by the sound of a woman. Nothing audible. You could just make out the sounds of a woman's voice. Some of us started getting spooked a little bit, but there was no reason to abort the mission. Not yet anyway. Not too long after we heard the baby and the woman, we noticed car lights coming towards us, thinking it could be the cops. We ran and jumped back into the car where my friend proceeded to act like the car had stalled in case it was the cops, and they wanted to know why we stopped. Though as soon as the lights got almost to us, they were gone, just like that. Now I was definitely spooked. What would cause the car lights to just vanish? Nothing that I could think of. My friend and I were looking at each other and talking loudly about what had just happened, when one of the girls sitting in the backseat started screaming and pointing to the windows on the passenger side of the car, all of which had tiny handprints all over them. We took off out of there fast. Only later did I learn that supposedly a group of kids died on that bridge, and now they attempt to push you over the bridge. The scariest part of the handprints being there was none of us knew this legend. That wasn't the only scary place in town I visited. I had been to the Denton Bridge in Belleville as well, and although nothing overly scary happened there, the group of people I was with there once noticed a guy dressed in all black coming towards us. We all got back in the car and started to drive away, towards the direction he was, and he was gone. Just like that. Nowhere to be found. The scariest place I think I've ever been, though, is Soup Cemetery, located on Old Denton Road, on the S Service driveway. There were so many things happened there that I witnessed over the years. Plus there is just a fear there that as soon as you pass through the gates that just can't be described. Even people who know nothing about the cemetery, there's various witches buried there for example, feel a terror that they can't describe. One instance I'll never forget is two male friends along with my best friend and I were walking through there late one night with walkie-talkies. My girlfriend and I used the walkie-talkies to determine where the two guys were in the cemetery, making sure they didn't try to scare us. Out of nowhere, a deep voice came over on our walkie-talkie, and we couldn't make out what it was saying. I two-way back yelling at the guys to stop messing around. Just then, the guys walked up behind us, wanting to know what we were talking about. I started yelling at them for trying to scare us, and the whole time they acted like they didn't know what was going on, thinking they were just trying to mess with us. My friend took the other walkie-talkie and continued walking further back. The whole time they tried talking back. The whole time the walkie-talkie going off, and that deep voice saying things we couldn't make out. We tried talking back, and it seemed like it was responding to us. So thinking possibly it was a CB radio or maybe even another walkie-talkie we were picking up, we disregarded it and turned down a path that led us through the headstones. Just then a fear came over me, worse than I had ever had. I suddenly decided we needed to leave, that something didn't want us there, and I no longer wanted to be there either. I then announced, "Alright guys, we're leaving now." Just then, the voice came back over the walkie-talkie in my hand answering, "Good idea." I have many more stories about Soup, which I would be happy to share. I wouldn't call the experiences I've had there due to ghosts, since I was raised differently. But I do know one thing. After all those things happening, you wouldn't catch me near that cemetery again ever. My story isn't horribly long as others have been, but here it is. One night, me and my friend Crystal decided we wanted to go for a walk. And of course we had our cigarettes with us, but we decided maybe we'd go through the school just for a walk. But I don't like this school, because 5 or more years ago, a kid who was 17 or 18 at the time decided he would not be on this earth anymore in those very woods we had to pass. The only separation between us and the woods was a feeble fence. Well, I'm sitting there freaked by going by because I don't like going in there at night. There are 2 openings. One where we stood, a small metal fence, and one white house on the other side with a picket fence. The other was on the other end of the street, which wasn't as wooded, and had a brown house too. Both paths led into the school, the back of the school next to their baseball diamond. So after a few long moments of debating, I gave in and let her drag me into the school. Now the path into the school that we took, the woods with the boy who did stuff to himself. It's always dark until you get to the smothered pavement with lots of light and a playground and swings. Oh, we got to the light, but beforehand I kept my eye down to the ground, and I clenched Crystal's jacket. We then walked slowly through and came to the playground area, then kept walking into the small storage building which was right across the janitor's parking. It's some weird little area by the playground, so Crystal thought she could freak me out more, so she paused and smiled at me. Wouldn't it be so freaky if something happened right now? After she said this, we instantly heard, and I kid you not, a little girl crying or screaming along with scratching on some kind of metal. So we ran. I really mean we ran. Me. I was screaming head to foot with every vulgar language imaginable. It scared me half to death, more than half. I was panting, freaking out, and crying. But I know I will never go there anymore at night. But the weird thing is, my parents walked up there about a half hour after we left because I called them crying. My dad came to find us. My dad heard the same thing and thought it was me. Of course it wasn't me. Whoa. I was 100% out of there. 2 days later, it was a little later than before, and we invited a couple guys to go out with us. But since I was so incredibly resistant, I stayed behind with one of the guys, and Crystal, and the other guy went in. 10 minutes later, they came out where we sat, which was at the other entrance, and she was pale as ever. The guy explained we gotta leave, so we got up and left the area only until a straightaway. Crystal was shaking and said, "Ray covered my eyes and told me to be calm and keep walking." So we did. And I didn't know what he was hiding, so he told me. A little childlike figure came walking towards us as we were walking slowly, quickly through. With that, she shut up and remained pale. Her complexion, that I've never seen before that way, made me feel so uneasy about the area, and I told myself I'm never going in there as long as I live. My name is Emily, and I would like to share with you a story from my old house. I believe our old house was haunted. There were several instances. Among them is the one I am about to share with you. This one happened in the basement. Me and my slightly older sister went to the basement to get a ball so we could play. Well, as we were looking for this ball, I saw a spider on the wall. Back then I was interested in spiders. I couldn't help it but go back and look. Well, I put my hand over it, and a few seconds later I felt a tickling on my hand, so I picked my hand up. I looked at the wall first. It was empty. Then I looked at my hand and could see nothing. It didn't bother me much. I thought I may have dropped it then. Well, we looked for the ball and found it. Then I looked at the wall once more and saw the same spider. Oh, needless to say, I put my hand over it once more. A few moments later, I felt that same tickle on my hand. I did the same steps as before and could not find a spider. My sister got bored of being in the basement, and I must say we were both a little scared. Well, she and I were walking up the steps when she turned back. She swears that she saw a shady mist-like figure standing at the bottom step dropping a wash rag. I looked back and didn't see anything, but that wash rag was not there before we came down. We ran upstairs screaming, and I dropped the ball, though I didn't want to. I had to go back and get that stupid ball. As I went down, I felt a presence. It scared me. It felt like something was looking at me, as if it wanted to eat me. I didn't feel safe at all. I ran back up the steps and slipped 3 from the top. It scared me so bad. I tried to get up, but fell again because something had my foot. I kicked blindly and got up again. I turned just before I shut the door and saw the misty figure. He was huge with short dark hair. His teeth were pointy and sharp, and he had a white shirt and blue jeans on. None of my family got me to go down there again. Also, among other things that happened in that home, we had a few more things happen. There were footsteps heard, even when no one was home. There were toys moved and beds made when no one had even touched them. There was even a spider that I swear I killed. And when I came back with a tissue to throw it away, it was alive and walking around once more. I'm happy that we finally moved, but now I'm wondering if that presence moved with us. There is now sounds coming from the basement at odd hours of the night and creaking windows. My mother is a firm believer that it's just the house settling, but I think there is someone there. First of all, this is one of the coolest websites ever. But anyway, I'll get to my story. I don't remember the year that it happened nor the age that I was. I still remember it though as if it were yesterday. My aunt just got a new computer. It was never a technology ace or anything, so she had no idea how to get it started. When all else fails, my mother. My mom was a whiz at computers. My aunt asked her to come over and hook up the darn thing. My mother, being the lovely lady that she is, agreed to do it within the week. It was actually that weekend that she decided to do it. Well, then my mom decides she wants to go over my aunt's house kind of late for some reason. I was very young and could not stay by myself, so she took me along, since calling a babysitter at the last minute would be rude. We finally get there. I look up at the house, admiring its large size. I did think it looked kind of scary though. We struggled getting inside because my mom could not see the keys. As soon as we did get inside, I was frightened. All of the lights were off and nobody was there, or so I thought. My mom wanted to get started with her work since it was maybe 9 o'clock already. Then she told me to stay upstairs and watch TV while she was in the basement hooking up the computer. After a while of whining about staying upstairs all alone in the large house, I finally agreed. My mother stayed with me for about 5 minutes showing me how to work the TV. I begged and pleaded for her not to go, but it was her duty as a sister to fix the computer. When she finally went downstairs, I was left all alone in the huge living room. I decided to turn on cartoons, thinking it would cheer me up a little bit. I finally started to calm down, and even laughed at the silliness of the cartoons. Then all of a sudden, I heard this loud noise in the kitchen. Apparently my mom hadn't heard it, and to me she was God. So anything she said went. After she said nothing, I proceeded to ignore the noise, but then it happened again. I ignored it. It happened again. I ignored it again, and it happened a third time. By that time I was so annoyed at the noise because it was disturbing my cartoons. I was so mad I forgot my rule about my mom, and I jumped up from the couch, turned around, and almost yelled "shut up" when I saw this mist in the kitchen. It seemed like it was in the shape of an elderly woman with a long white dress and long white hair. I was so shocked I couldn't scream, but I could still move. So I ran as fast as my little legs could carry me downstairs into the basement and into my precious mother's arms. I didn't tell her quite what happened, as I was still in shock, all in amazement at the creature that had stood before me. I only explained it about the noises. She said she was hearing little noises, not loud noises, around where she was. I stayed down there with her because she said I could, especially when she saw my little white face. As I was sitting on the couch, playing with numerous toys that were scattered about, I heard a soft bark, then I heard a whimper, and then another loud bark. I knew it was coming from the room that held the water tank and such. I thought about the dog. Oreo. It must have been him. But then I remembered he died about a couple months before. My aunt and uncle at the time owned no animals, not even a bird. And it was way too late for someone to let their dog out. Besides, I don't think I would have hurt a dog. I don't believe anyone in the community owned one. What frightened me the most was that poor little Oreo. A dog that had been banished to live outside for no reason and was never fed, died on the ground right above where I heard the noise. I told my mom about this. She said that she heard nothing. I told her to hurry up with the computer, which she did, because she was hearing things too. We both ran up the steps and out the door. After we locked it, we ran to the car and got in. I was scared because the car was not starting up. Then all of a sudden, it did. I was so happy to be out of there. My cousin had heard noises such as the ones I had heard in the kitchen, except they were outside of his room. My other cousin claims that he heard a noise in the oven like something was in it. He opened the oven and saw a heavyset man in a white blood-stained shirt. Now I mentioned in the title that this was a traveling ghost. I say this because most, if not all, of that family's houses have had some sort of scariness to them. My cousin's current residence is just as haunted. Doors will open and close by themselves. One time, we were watching a movie. It was over and I went to turn the lights on. When I turned them on, I heard a strange buzzing sound in the laundry room. It sounded like when the dryer is done drying clothes, only it was a steady, non-pausing sound. I walked over to the doors and started to put my ear up to it to make sure the sound was coming from that room. As I did so, all of the lights went off, and the DVD player suddenly turned on much louder than we had it on. But the thing was, the DVD player had been off the whole time. When everything came on, I jumped 5 feet in the air onto my poor cousin, where I proceeded to scratch her neck, holding on to her for dear life. I don't remember ever watching a movie down there again. Later, we asked my mom if she was doing laundry. She then asked us why, and we told her about the sound. She said she didn't even think about doing a load of laundry. To this day, I'm still scared to stay over my cousin's house. When my sister and we were young, we lived in a newer duplex in California. It was a small place with only 2 bedrooms, so my sister and I had to share a room. We had our beds on opposite walls, but they both faced the wall. On one side of the hall was my parents' bedroom, and on the other side was the bathroom, and in the middle of the ceiling was a big square fluorescent light. I think that's where it lived. I can't exactly remember when it started. All I remember is walking in the middle of the night and seeing what I remember as the electricity man. It seemed to come out of the light, which my parents left on to help us sleep. It looked like a person, but seemed made from light. This happened several times over the years we lived in the duplex. I never told anyone about what had happened until about 15 years later. My sister and I had come to visit my parents. We were all sitting in the living room, talking about our childhood, when my sister had asked if I remembered anything strange about the duplex. I asked what she meant by strange. He asked if I had ever seen anyone in the hall. I then told her about my experience with the electric man. Turns out she saw the same thing. I worked at 14A Madison Road in Fairfield, New Jersey for about 8 years. Most of our hauntings occurred after 9 p.m. We had a wooden walkway that was used to transport literature to a room above the offices. Late at night, we would hear footsteps on the walkway. My monitor in the cubicle was shut off, and I saw the reflection of a face, which was not mine, by the way, on the monitor. When I turned around, no one was there. I was personally dragged across the warehouse floor where my coworker Judy looked on in horror. Judy also heard footsteps behind her on her electric mat. When she turned around, no one was there. Ah, poor Judy, a victim of ghost stories. A victim of a ghostly experience. And if you liked the video, and you want to be victimized by ghost stories of your own, or if you want to submit an encounter, or you just want to support the channel, subscribe. And if you've already done that, leave a like, comment, and put poor Judy in the comment section below. That way, I know you got to the end of the video, you're engaged, you're locked and loaded. Can I say that? Yeah, I can. I don't know. Maybe I can't. I'll probably get demonetized. But anyway, guys, love you guys. I'll see you until the rest of the year, because the end of the year is soon. Maybe not soon. I mean, it's March only. And I got a lot of videos to do for you guys. So please leave your support, like, share, comment, subscribe, and please do all your best to, say hi to me. That's really all I want. Well, I do want views, obviously. I want you guys to enjoy the videos, but I want, to get it across all social media platforms, and I want it to be on YouTube and the algorithm to like me and all this nonsense and everything. But if you like the video, please put it in the comment section below. I will be uploading a longer video later, a couple days later, probably Wednesday, hopefully Thursday. And that's all I have to say. Love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.